Hi, here it is, the end of January in 2023, and look what I have found. I have found a clump of crocus blooming, and while this might seem unusual, it isn't that unusual around here. The Arboretum is filled with microclimates. You can see here, this clump of crocus is next to a stone wall, and that stone collects the heat from the day and radiates it back, creating this warm protected spot. So we do tend to have flowers that bloom earlier in some places than others. We also specialize in having plants that are blooming year round. So any time of the year, any month, you can come here to the Ambler Arboretum and find flowers blooming. And I'm Kathy Salisbury, I'm the director of the Ambler Arboretum, and I'm going to show you today some more flowers that are blooming on the 30th of January 2023. What I thought would be interesting, because it's been fairly mild winter so far, we haven't had almost any snow at all to speak of, but in the coming days it is supposed to get very, very cold, and I thought it would be interesting to check back and see how our flowers are doing after the really cold temperatures hit. So we'll take a look at them today, and then we'll take a look at them in a week or so. So we'll visit this clump of crocus in the coming weeks. Here we have a group of Tommy crocus, and you can see they naturalize, so they spread naturally. They're great for including in lawns or something like that. And if you look really closely, you might be able to see our honeybees from our apiary on campus flying around visiting these flowers, gathering up some pollen or some nectar while it's warm out. And so that's a nice thing about having flowers that bloom this time of the year, is that insects that are out and about can benefit from them. So while you might not think of supporting pollinators during the winter months, you certainly can do that by incorporating plants that bloom in the winter months. See, this honeybee is just exploring these open flowers. Probably preparing for the cold that's coming. Another shrub that blooms in the winter is this winter jasmine. You might think it's forsythia at first glance, but the flowers are a bit different. The habit is different. So this is more arching, can be a ground cover, or actually grow over a stone wall as it's doing here, or down a slope to help stabilize and prevent erosion in some areas. And this is Jasminum nudiflorum, the winter jasmine. We take a look. The flowers aren't fragrant, but what I like about these versus forsythia flowers is, well, first of all, they're much earlier, and second, they bloom over a long period of time. So while forsythia blooms all at once, maybe for a week or so, and then is done, this has been blooming since December, and it will continue to bloom into March or even April with these sporadic flowers. Now, in December, it was more one or two flowers here or there, and now you can see it's really starting to open up. In the summer, this has shiny green leaves, trifoliate leaves, so compound leaves that are in threes that are super shiny. You can see the green stems, and even the buds on here are fairly ornamental. They're red, and so they add something to the display as well in the winter. This was one of the first plants to bloom in the winter. So we'll check back on this in a week or two and see how they did as well. Here we have another one of my favorites. This is Salix gracilostylum Mount Aso, the Japanese pink pussy willow. You can see these catkins on here are a beautiful bright pink color, soft and fuzzy. And this blooms a little bit later than it is blooming right now, but it makes a great cut flower. And as the catkins expand, which I'll show you in a couple of weeks also, it becomes very attractive to pollinators as well. You can see sometimes the bud scales are still hanging on to the catkins as they expand. So this particular willow has just 2 bud scales covering it, and they split apart and kind of hang out there as the catkin expands. The pink pussy willow, Salix gracilis Mount Aso. We cut this back regularly to encourage flowering. Another plant that is in bloom and proving very interesting to our honeybees is this leatherleaf Mahonia. This is Mahonia belii. And you can see the flowers are blooming. They're fragrant, bright yellow in these cool spikes at the terminal ends of the branches, so at the tops of the branches here. These flowers will be followed by blue fruits later in the spring or early summer. If you think this looks like a holly a little bit, you can check out our That's Not a Holly video to learn why this is not a holly, even though it looks like one. There's our honeybees visiting. So the practice of recording the dates of the changes of a plant is called phenology. So when a flower blooms, when it drops its bloom, when it sets fruit, when it drops its leaves, all of that, recording all of that and noticing trends and changes over time is called phenology. So we've been keeping an eye on that here. And finally, the last flower we're going to cover today, these are in the winter garden. This is Hamamelis ex intermedia Gelina. So this is Gelina witch hazel. And this one too, it's usually flowering by now, but it's not usually in full flower until the middle of February sometime. So I do feel like we're a little early this season. But you can see these wonderful strappy petals, and the colors almost like looking at a little miniature bonfire. And then you can see the leaf buds up there, the vegetative buds, which will be the leaves later in the spring. And this too, the honeybees just love visiting these flowers. And on cue, there's a honeybee. We do have beekeeping classes here for credit and also for fun, for personal enrichment. And we'd love to have you come and learn more about our bees and how to keep your own bees. So you can see these are fairly large shrubs here at the Arboretum. Just brilliant orange this time of the year. So that is our Gelina witch hazel. So I'll come back in about a week or so after this cold spell, and we'll check on these flowers and see how they made out. Thanks for visiting with the Ambler Arboretum, checking out our winter flowers, and we hope to see you in the garden soon. Take good care.